I just rang your doorbell because I have a couple questions for you. Are you sure? I just rang your doorbell because I have a couple questions.
It's normally just a couple of inches of wood and a lock that separates the safe interior of our homes from the outside world. Most of us have experienced unwanted visitors to our front doors, and most of the time they have innocuous intentions, like door-to-door salespeople or religious people looking to convert us. Sometimes, visitors have much more malicious intentions, whether that be package thieves, people looking to rob our homes, or people who want to hurt us. And other times, it's hard to tell, as people exhibit strange, but likely harmless behaviour that may be symptomatic of mental health issues or simply having the wrong address. Regardless of their intentions, most people want to know when someone's outside their front door, especially when they're not at home themselves. Video doorbells, such as Amazon's hugely popular Ring brand, provide a convenient means of having a 24/7 view of what's going on outside our front doors at any given time, providing a sense of security to their owners. Much like anything though, the public sharing of video doorbell footage has turned the subjects of our home surveillance into content. Hyperlocal social networks, like Nextdoor, allow us to easily share this footage with neighbours, to warn them and have them share on our anxieties about actual criminals or just suspicious individuals. And the most extreme footage is often shared to the wider internet, such as via short-form video, like Reels and TikTok, or as part of compilations, where it entertains and exhilarates people around the world. The thrill of doorbell footage is uniquely potent though, and can provide an adrenaline rush, regardless of our physical proximity to the filming location. But what are the implications of us watching and sharing all this footage, and how does it feed into wider anxieties about the state of the world? Let's get into it. As of 2023, the global video doorbell market was worth $16.2 billion and is expected to hit $48 billion by 2030, tripling in size. 1 in 5 US homes with internet now have a video doorbell, up from just 1 in 25 in 2017. Despite some recent subscription price hikes from the most popular brand, Amazon's Ring, video doorbells are still more affordable than ever, with a plethora of cheaper alternatives available. This has caused them to very quickly pop up on front doors everywhere, providing a sense of security in a world that feels increasingly dangerous to many. The data supports the idea that people are perceiving an increase in crime globally, with a majority of respondents in every polled country believing that the amount of crime or violence in their neighbourhood has increased in the past 12 months. The severity of crimes that people are concerned by vary significantly, with package thefts, a relatively minor crime, a common motivator for buying video doorbells. While home deliveries didn't continue to grow at the same rate as after the pandemic, they remain at an elevated level, higher than if they'd continued their pre-pandemic growth trajectory. With many workers now back in the office at least part-time, this has meant many more parcels are left unattended at front doors, and video doorbells are perceived as a deterrent against package thieves, or porch pirates. Ring also has its Neighbours app, which it has previously marketed as the new Neighbourhood Watch, allowing Ring owners to share noteworthy footage with other owners in their community, further fostering a sense of security. There's just one problem. There's limited evidence that video doorbells actually reduce crime. A 2015 study by Ring found that their doorbells, when given away for free to 10% of residents in an LA neighbourhood, helped reduce burglaries by 55% over 6 months. In a 2018 article, MIT questioned the value of this study after Ring refused to share any data, methodology or analysis from the pilot with them, making it impossible to actually give it much credibility. Ring ran a follow-up study in 2018, this time donating 500 doorbells and security cameras to 2 neighbourhoods in Newark, New Jersey, and claimed to have reduced burglaries by more than 50%. Again, they refused to share their data and methodology with MIT, and when MIT evaluated the drop in crime via publicly available crime data, they found that other neighbourhoods outside the study had experienced even greater drops. In one of the few publicly available studies of its kind, the cop in your neighbour's doorbell, Amazon's Ring and the spread of participatory mass surveillance, no correlation was found between increased use of the devices in LA and a reduction in crime rates. There isn't a consensus on this topic amongst security experts, but many agree that video doorbells are an ineffective deterrent. Elizabeth, owner of Locksmith L&E Limited, told The Sun that Ring doorbells and CCTV are not deterring criminals. They can just pop on a mask or a balaclava and those cameras aren't going to bother them. But do they at least help solve crimes? This was the premise of Ring's Request for Assistance feature, which allowed local police to request footage from Ring customers through its Neighbours app. An NBC News investigation found that, after interviews with 40 law enforcement agencies in 8 states that have partnered with Ring for at least 3 months, there is little concrete evidence to support the claim that Ring doorbells help solve crimes. 3 agencies said that the ease with which the public can share Ring videos means officers spend time reviewing clips of non-criminal issues, such as raccoons and petty disagreements between neighbours. Ring has now removed this feature, and police departments are required to get a search warrant for this footage. That's not to say evidence from Ring doorbells hasn't been useful. There's plenty of documented instances of it being used as evidence, but they clearly aren't as impactful as Ring wants us to believe. They certainly make people feel safer though, such as this man who regained his sense of security after installing one. Much of the time though, this footage ends up on social media, where its impact is biggest. Footage is often shared on hyperlocal social media, such as Nextdoor, Neighbours by Ring, local Facebook groups, and even local WhatsApp groups. This can have a purely altruistic motivation, to raise awareness so neighbours can keep a lookout for the offenders in question. Many times the offence is legitimate, such as parcel theft, even if it's questionable how much can actually be done. Other times though, the offender in question is simply engaging in loosely defined, suspicious behaviour. That might be loitering, sitting in a car for too long, or just being. This topic is bigger than the scope of this video, but I should also acknowledge that there is often a racial component to this, with the cop in your neighbour's doorbell finding that users actively frame video subjects as criminal and suspicious, and the race of a neighbourhood has a significant impact on posting rates. Concerning behaviour may also be due to mental health struggles, which isn't to say that this isn't a problem that needs to be addressed structurally, but it may be interpreted as representing more of a danger than it actually does. If people are truly sharing video doorbell footage to hyperlocal social media to raise awareness, this can still cause more harm than good if the activities in question are innocuous. The motivation to share this footage isn't always selfless either. In situations where we feel powerless, sharing it with other members of our communities can help us regain a sense of control, especially if local police are perceived as ineffective at preventing and solving crimes. Our feelings and emotions are then validated by other residents, who can work themselves up into a frenzy in the comments, an instinctual reaction to a new perceived danger to their own selves or property, presented in HD. Anger is a natural reaction to crimes against us, especially if it's high-value property such as a car or violent crime, and sharing video evidence of this on social media invites other residents to share in our anger. The most appealing thing about this kind of anger is its self-righteousness. Rarely are there situations where we can feel entirely justified in our anger, where we're confident that there's a clear right and wrong, and expressions of our anger are just us being a good neighbour. Seeing video doorbell footage on hyperlocal social media is incredibly impactful because of its physical proximity to where we live. It creates a feeling that we're equally as likely to be a victim of that crime. This also feeds into a perception of increased crime, with the University of Houston study confirming that those who use neighbourhood apps would perceive local crime rates to be higher in their communities than those who do not, independent of the actual crime rates. But what about when this footage is shared in global social media, like YouTube or short-form video platforms? Short-form video platforms like TikTok, Reels and YouTube Shorts incentivize videos that generate strong emotions in users, whether that be positive or negative. This is because they tend to result in engaged users, whether that be watch time, likes, comments, follows, etc., which in turn pushes the video to more users. For the reasons already described, doorbell footage often falls into this category. Scenes that scare us, anger us, make us laugh, or a combination of these. Unlike hyperlocal social media, sharing footage in this context isn't being done to the benefit of the local community, to raise awareness of specific individuals or a problem that is specific to your community. It might be rationalised as raising awareness of an issue that is global or national, but I'd argue that this isn't how the most popular clips are consumed. In fact, the nature of online video means that the original poster has very limited, if any, control over how it's shared. It's possible to download and share any video online, often ending up in compilations. In this context, humour is a more prominent theme than on hyperlocal social media. The man experiencing psychosis on the streets of your neighbourhood becomes entertainment rather than a potential threat. There's no shortage of funny doorbell compilations. Some clips are more in the vein of America's Funniest Home Videos or You've Been Framed, some showing incompetent criminals, and others showing strangers' darkest, most confused moments, likely unaware that their face will be published on the internet. The burglar being threatened at gunpoint by a homeowner becomes a satisfying gotcha moment, rather than a situation in which somebody may lose their life. These videos are liable to attract the same pitchfork-wielding mentality that you'd see in the comment sections of hyperlocal social networks, only on a global scale. While we might see the humour in these clips from anywhere in the world, the intense, scary ones still give us a rush, despite us being far removed from the situation. Much like a horror film, we can put ourselves in the shoes of the doorbell owner, imagining ourselves on the other side of that door and how it would feel to have our own safe space violated. Doorbell News, one of the biggest YouTube channels in this niche, was started by Jessica Randall and her husband after an attempted break-in that she later saw on her video doorbell. This understandably made her a passionate advocate of them. Espousing their benefits to BBC News, she said, "I feel like I can, sleep safely in my home, and I can walk away from my home without being paranoid." Jessica has clearly worked out a winning formula for these compilations, which feature a narrator cracking jokes in between clips, as Doorbell News has now accumulated 887,000 subscribers on YouTube. The compilations do make for a good ad for video doorbells, and it wouldn't be unreasonable to want one after watching them. But what effect does watching this kind of home surveillance footage, edited and packaged up for social media, have on our minds? Humans' negativity bias is well established in the field of psychology, described by psychology today as our brains being built with a greater sensitivity to unpleasant news, so automatic that it can be detected at the earliest stage of the brain's information processing. Negativity bias pairs nicely with the modern invention of social media to create doom scrolling. The compulsive, anxious interest in information that is timely and negative. It spirals and is self-reinforcing. Users scan and approach negative post after negative post, whether from news sources, opinion leaders, or friends. Doom scrolling preceded the pandemic, but truly came to its own during lockdowns, when we often had nothing better to do than scroll for hours on social media, serving up increasingly disastrous news about the world. The sheer volume of content that's available to us via social media, paired with our compulsion to watch distressing videos, and social media algorithms' effectiveness at keeping us on their apps, puts us in a constant heightened state. A study at Texas Tech University found that 16.5% of about 1,100 people surveyed showed signs of severely problematic news consumption. Associate Professor Brian McLaughlin, the study's lead author, said that the 24-hour news cycle could bring about a constant state of high alert in some people, making the world seem like a dark and dangerous place. Few things are more impactful than seeing the crime that's literally happening on other people's doorsteps. And with the increasing amounts of anxiety-inducing footage from an increasing amount of video doorbells, this instills in us a feeling that we're under the constant threat of the dark and dangerous world coming into our home. Video doorbells are their own best marketing, as owners thoroughly document and publish everything untoward happening within viewable distance of their front doors. This perpetuates a cycle of awareness of crime and untoward behaviour, feeding into a need to be even more aware of it, creating a general state of frenetic nervousness. Homes are meant to be our places of ultimate safety, regardless of the dangers that exist in the outside world. Everyone should have a place that they can come home to and know they're safe. It takes an average of 8 months for burglary victims to feel safe in their homes again, and some never feel secure again, with the effects on children carrying over into adulthood. As Jessica from Doorbell News testified, video doorbells can be hugely impactful in terms of making their owners feel more secure in their homes. I would also suggest that most video doorbell owners know it's not a silver bullet, and the relatively low cost makes it a reasonable investment. But few of us are immune from the compulsion to turn everything into content, and it's difficult to be honest with ourselves about our motivations for doing so. Are we sharing footage of the man loitering near our home to next door because we're looking out for our neighbours and don't want them to come to harm? Or does our heightened nervous state demand validation? And when we watch compilations of video doorbell footage, are we educating ourselves on the dangers out in the world, or are we just feeding an insatiable desire for negative information? It's integral that people have a right to surveil their own properties, but for many, this is translated into a right to turn anyone on their property into content, regardless of the circumstances. People often aren't being irrational when they're alarmed to see strangers behaving erratically on their front doorstep. But the circumstances that lead up to this generally represent a structural failure of our society and government, and it's hard to argue that it's productive to share footage of someone at their lowest online. Social media, especially hyperlocal social media, combined with cheap, easily accessible home surveillance equipment, has fostered a perception of crime as ever-present and ever-increasing, regardless of measurable reality. We simultaneously have more documentation of what's happening in our neighbourhoods than ever, in ever-improving picture and audio quality, and yet it's only a narrow slice that we ever see. Nobody's sharing the 99+% of footage when nothing happens. While sharing video doorbell footage online may be a relatively new phenomenon, social media is functioning as it always has, presenting us with the most extreme and unusual goings-on. It's just a lot more difficult to ignore when it feels like the threat's outside our door. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so please drop a comment down below, as well as a like and a subscription if you want to see more. I release a new video every couple of weeks. Until next time, see ya!